evening, folks, and welcome to Virtual Bedtime Stories from the Newark Public Library. As always, we are recording these live virtual story hours on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indians. If you are tuning in from anywhere in Newark, it's likely that you're on land that rightfully belongs to that Indian tribe as well. I am your host, Mix Allie. Mix exactly like mixing bowl, not Mr., Ms., Mrs., or Miss, because, as you can see, I am not a boy, I'm not a girl either. I'm a unicorn. And so is my storytelling companion, who many of you may know from virtual story times during the day. Put your hands together for Jonathan Van Unicorn! Hello, hello! What a beautiful bedtime it is when you've got unicorns there to join you. Hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Jonathan, I'm so glad that you are so happy to be back here for virtual bedtime. Are you feeling sleepy yet? Are you starting to wind down? Oh yes, we've had quite an active day around here, McSally, haven't we? We've read folk tales and fairy tales and poems, and we've found out lots more about what happens in the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Oh, I am just about ready to honk out. Well, Jonathan, I am so happy that I will be able to read some stories to help send you off into dreamland. No. I said I need to go to sleep, not that I want to go to dreamland. No. You see, I sleep in Unicorn Land. Dreamland is way up in the sky, and it takes hours to get there. You need to take the Rainbow Express, which I always take to visit you here in Newark, of course, and then you have to take the Moonlight Express. From there, you've got to transfer. You've got to go all the way out very far into the galaxy, beyond this particular galaxy, as a matter of fact. Dreamland's quite far away, McSally, and I don't care to make a journey like that when I am already so very fatigued. I'll keep that in mind in the future, Jonathan. The thing is, I've gotten used to how humans talk about dreamland, and usually what humans mean by dreamland is just going to sleep and having dreams. Oh, well, in that case, yes, all right, let's all go to dreamland together, in the human sense of the term. That sounds great, Jonathan. Are you ready to get comfy and listen to some bedtime stories? Oh yes, I'll just settle down right over here. Wonderful. All right, folks. Well, today we are going to read another story from the book we started reading last week for virtual bedtime stories, 10 in a Bed, by Alan Alberg and illustrated by Andre Amstutz. If you were here last week, you already know that these stories are all about a girl named Dinah Price, who every night when she goes to bed, she finds a new fairy tale character who she does not recognize in her bed, and she knows she has to go to bed like her parents told her, but in order to do that, she always has to convince the fairy tale character to get out of her bed and let her sleep. So we'll see who she encounters today, and then we will, as always, read Goodnight Yoga and do some bedtime yoga together, so that as we venture into dreamland, we are all doing so just as peacefully as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the next chapter of 10 in a Bed. We already read about Dinah Price encountering the 3 bears in her bed. In chapter 2, she will encounter someone named Esmerelda. Chapter 2, Esmerelda. The next day, Dinah Price got up, got dressed, and had her breakfast. She had cornflakes with the top of the milk on them, a piece of her dad's toast and marmalade, a cup of tea, and an orange. She told her dad about the 3 bears. He said that was very interesting. On her way to school, She had been at school a couple of terms. Dinah told her friend about the 3 bears. Her friend said that she had had 4 bears in her bed one time. There's Dinah and there's her friend. At school, Dinah drew a picture of the 3 bears in her news book. Her teacher, Mrs. Hicks, said it was very nice, dear. Dinah read her reading book to Mrs. Hicks and did some writing. When some flowers got knocked over, she fetched the mop. The school dinner was shepherd's pie, peas and gravy, sponge cake, and pineapple jelly. Oh. In the last chapter, she imagined the 3 bears eating pineapple jelly, and now she got to eat it for lunch. After school, Dinah went to play and have tea at her friend's house. They found a caterpillar in the garden. They also made a home for it with dock leaves in a baby food tin. At 5:30, Dinah came home. She fed her goldfish and watched TV for a while. She rode her bicycle along the pavement in front of the house. When bedtime came, Dinah Price kissed her mom and dad goodnight, kissed her Uncle Jim, too, who had called in for a visit, stroked the dog, climbed the stairs, went into her room, and found a wicked witch in her bed. The witch was dressed all in black. She had a tall black hat on her head. There was a pair of black buttoned boots on the bedside rug. The witch's nose was large and had a wart on it. Her broomstick was propped up in a corner of the room. There was no sign of a cat. Unlike in this room. Those of you who tune in for virtual story time often will know that there are generally a lot of cats in my bed. Dinah Price looked at the wicked witch and shivered in her nightie. She knew a bit about witches. Only last week, her teacher, Mrs. Hicks, had told them a story about a witch. This witch used to catch little children and fatten them up in a birdcage. Later on, she would bake them in a pie, given the chance. The wicked witch looked at Dinah Price and scowled. "You're a skinny little thing, aren't you?" "Don't be rude," said Dinah. "Don't you be rude," said the witch. She pulled the bedclothes up under her chin. Dinah noticed her chin had a few whiskers on it. "You'd better mind your manners, little lady. I could turn you into a tin of beans." "My Uncle Jim is downstairs," said Dinah. "He is a hunter." The wicked witch sniffed and pretended not to care. Even so, Dinah could see a worried look in her eyes. The truth is, Dinah's Uncle Jim was a bus driver, but the witch was not to know that. The wicked witch peered at Dinah from beneath the brim of her hat. The hat had tilted forward a little, over one eye. It cast a shadow on the wall. "How about a story, then? They say you get good stories hereabouts." "Who told you that?" "Never you mind," said the witch. She sniffed again. "Come on, I haven't heard a story in weeks." Dinah Price thought for a minute. "If I tell you a story, would you promise to go home to your own bed?" "Depends," the witch said. "It would need to be good." "It would be." "None of this wicked witch business." "Of course not." "Right," said the witch. "It's a promise." She snuggled further down the bed. Her long greenish fingers clutched the bedclothes on either side of her chin. "Come on, let's be having it." So Dinah Price pulled up her stool, picked up a book, and began to read. Once upon a time, there was... "Are you reading this or making it up?" "Never you mind," said Dinah, although the truth is she was making it up, just like she did when the 3 bears were in her bed. Manners. The witch pointed a finger at Dinah. I could turn you into a hole in the road. Once upon a time, said Dinah, there was a wicked wonderful witch. That's more like it, said the witch. She was very beautiful, this witch. Very beautiful. She had a beautiful black dress and hat, beautiful black hair and fingernails, and a very pretty wart on the end of her nose. Her name was Esmeralda, said the witch. The witch's own name was not Esmeralda, but she had always wanted it to be. Esmeralda, that's it. Well, one day Esmeralda the witch was at home in her house in the middle of a wood. What sort of a house? It was a neat little house, said Dinah. It had a red roof, yellow curtains, and roses around the door. And a little white fence, said the witch. You forgot that. And a rockery. Yes, it had all of that. Well, there was the witch, and what she was doing was practicing a few spells. She practiced a spell for doing the washing up, and a spell for making the beds, and all kinds of spells like that. Anyway, suddenly she heard a noise outside, and looked to see what it was. It was a horrid, naughty little boy. He was rattling a stick along the garden fence. My beautiful fence, the witch shouted, and whistling through his teeth. So Esmeralda thought for a minute, and she said to herself, I cannot stand for this. I'm going to teach that boy a lesson. What I'm going to do is cook him in a pie and eat him up, shouted the witch. Well, that'll teach him. Dinah Price thought for a minute. She was not too happy with the way this story was going. She said, well, anyway, first Esmeralda had to catch the horrid boy. And easy peasy, said the witch. She just jumped out and grabbed him. Gotcha, she said. Dinah paused again. She could feel the story slipping away from her. So then Esmeralda carried the boy back into the house and put him in a pie, shouted the witch. In a bird cage, said Dinah firmly. A big one that she had hanging in the kitchen, because that horrid naughty little boy was also a skinny naughty little boy. He needed fattening up. Ah, good thinking, said the witch. So after that, Esmeralda made lots of nice things and fed them to the boy to fatten him up. There was fish fingers and baked beans on toast and steak and kidney pie and chips and treacle tart and custard and chocolate cake. Also, there was orange squash and a few Smarties. Now, this boy, besides being little, naughty, and horrid, was also cheeky and brave. Here's a picture of the little boy and the witch in the story that Dinah was telling. Was he really? Said the witch. Yes. So he ate up all these things without batting an eyelid, and afterwards sat in the bird cage, whistling once more through his teeth. Like a canary, said the witch. Yes, and after that he even rattled his stick along the bars of the cage. He's a pest, that boy, said the witch. Well, Esmeralda kept feeding the boy up day after day, and he kept eating and drinking everything he was given, and whistling through his teeth, and rattling his stick along the bars of the cage. But the funny thing was, at this point, Dinah had an idea for saving the boy. The funny thing was, he never got any fatter. The witch, however, was ready for her. Yes, he did! He got fatter all the time! Fatter and fatter! All right, then. He got fatter, fatter and fatter and fatter. So fat that he couldn't whistle anymore or rattle his stick along the bars of the cage. I should have took that stick off him, said the witch. So fat, here Dinah had another idea, so fat that Esmeralda just couldn't get him out of the cage. Yes, she could, said the witch. She smashed it open with an axe. It was made out of iron. Cut it with a hacksaw, shouted the witch. She hadn't got one. Tore it to pieces with her bare hands, screamed the witch. By this time, the witch was sitting bolt upright in the bed. Her hat had fallen off. Her hair was sticking out like straw. What's going on here? I'm offering a good story, and all I get is aggravation. You keep butting in, that's the trouble, said Dinah. Whose story is it, anyway? That's what I want to know. The witch leaned over the side of the bed. She picked up her hat, which was on the floor. At that moment, a voice called up in an angry whisker from the hall. Dinah, you stop that noise and go to sleep. Do you hear? It was Dinah's mom. You wake little Maurice up and there'll be trouble. Then there was a sound of a door closing and, after that, silence. Dinah looked at the Wicked Witch, and the Wicked Witch looked at Dinah. Both had guilty expressions on their faces. Who's little Maurice? Said the witch. My baby brother, said Dinah. He's in the other room. Ah! The witch stared closely at her hat. She wiped it on the sleeve of her dress and put it on. She drummed with her fingers against the side of the bed. So anyway, what happened in this story of mine? What happened, said Dinah. No more shouting now. What happened was, just then, a handsome prince came riding by. And he had a hacksaw. No, he didn't. He stopped at the witch's house for a drink of water. While he was drinking, now Dinah had a third idea. While he was drinking, he looked at Esmeralda. He looked at her beautiful black dress and her hat and her beautiful black hair and fingernails and the pretty little wart right on the end of her nose. He said to himself, Who is this woman? She must be the fairest in the land. The Wicked Witch pulled up the bedclothes up once more under her chin. A blush appeared on her otherwise greenish cheeks. She looked embarrassed, but pleased too. She showed no sign of butting in. So Esmeralda invited the prince to stay to tea, which he did. They had egg and tomato sandwiches, Bakewell tart, homemade lemonade, and a few peanuts. The prince offered to help with the washing up, but Esmeralda wouldn't let him in the kitchen. I bet she didn't want him to know that there was a little boy in a birdcage in there. Then after that, they went for a walk in the woods, and the prince asked Esmeralda to marry him. Is there a picture of him in there? Whispered the witch. Dinah turned the pages of her book. No. You'll have to imagine him for yourself. I can do that. Keep going. So anyway, the prince asked Esmeralda to marry him. You are the fairest in the land, he said. And what did she say? Said the witch. She said, Oh, your highness, I am but a humble witch. I do not deserve. But she did say yes, though, said the witch, beginning to scowl once more. She said yes, said Dinah, and after that she packed her nightie, face flannel, and toothbrush in a little bag and rode away on the prince's horse to his castle in a far country. And lived happily ever after, whispered the witch. That's right, said Dinah, and she closed her book. The end. The Wicked Witch heaved a deep sigh and sat up in the bed. It was darker in the room now. Her hat no longer cast a shadow on the wall. In the tree outside the window, birds were twittering. From farther off came the chimes of an ice cream van. The witch got out of the bed. She reached for her button boots and put them on. That story was all right. Got better as it went along. She collected her broomstick and went over to the window. She gazed out. This your garden down here? Yes, said Dinah. The hedge wants cutting. Dinah put her book on the bedside table and joined the witch at the window. Are you going home now? To your own house and your own bed? No, I'll probably fly around for a bit, said the witch. Witches work nights, you know. She climbed out onto the window ledge. By the way, what became of that little boy in the story? The little pest with the stick? Oh, he just stayed in the birdcage for a while, said Dinah, whistling to himself, till he got thinner and thinner and slipped out through the bars and got away. The Wicked Witch dangled her bony legs over the window ledge and clutched the broom between her legs. I think I'll keep an eye open for that boy, she said. After she said goodbye to Dinah Price, she flew off over the gardens and the garages. After a while, she disappeared into the blue and purple haze over the allotments. Dinah watched her go. She shut the window and pulled the curtains across. She got into the bed, still warm from the witch being there, turned over on her side, and slept till morning. And I hope that you all sleep peacefully until morning too. And to help with that, let's do some bedtime yoga together. Those of you who I know from the North End branch of the Newark Public Library, where I am the children's librarian, some of you may have read this book with me before. And we just all think it's a really nice way to end a nighttime story hour, and to just really be calm and peaceful when you go to bed. And you know what? If you ever feel really stressed during the day and need to relax, then maybe you can remember some of the exercises from this book and do them then as well. But don't worry, this is yoga, but it's also a story. This is Goodnight Yoga by Miriam Gates, illustrated by Sarah Jane Hindler. I am going to be reading you the book and demonstrating the poses as well. It might be a little awkward sometimes, but I think together we will all get through it. What's going to be most important is a few yoga basics. So before we get started, take a moment to make sure you're really comfortable. If there's any just basic stretches that you can do that feel really good, do those. All of my favorite people who do yoga say that yoga is all about finding what feels good. So stretch around a little in whatever ways feel good. And sit up and think about holding your head over your heart and your heart right over your hips. And whatever else we do, try to just think of those as 3 stars in a beautiful line, glowing with the light that is within every single one of you. And then what's even more important when it comes to the relaxing, wonderful things that yoga can bring to your life, if you like it, if it works for you, is just breathing in and out, which we all do all the time. So all of us can do this. Let's take a moment to warm up with some nice, deep, relaxing yoga breaths. So breathe in through your nose. Hold it for a little bit. and then breathe out through either your nose or your mouth. Let's do 3 breaths like that together just to get into that relaxed yoga mind and body space. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to count down from 3. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out. I feel better already, don't you? And we're just getting started. I'm going to read you this story, which will be a bedtime story and a little yoga journey. But whatever you do, whatever else happens, what's going to be most important is to keep those 3 stars, head, heart, and hips, lined up together. And just to keep breathing in that lovely, relaxing way. With that, here's Goodnight Yoga by Miriam Gates and Sarah Jane Hindler. The sun in the sky is going down. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, my arms lift up to the sky and then back down like sun rays. Let's all stand up together and do that pose. All right, make those beautiful sun rays. Breathe in and out. And if you get up before I do, or if you want to keep going with one pose a little longer after I do it once, that is okay. Find what feels good. Do your thing. And the clouds float by. This is the next pose we're going to do. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, I bend my knees and scoop the clouds around me. Then I stand tall and release the clouds above my head. So we'll breathe in. We were standing, being sun rays. Breathe in. Scoop those clouds down and breathe out. Blow the clouds all around you. Remember those 3 stars: head, heart, hips. You can keep doing that pose while I read the next one if you want. The stars sparkle brightly. Ooh, we're going to be standing up again. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, my arms reach out wide toward the stars. We all look like stars now with 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're a unicorn too, then your horn gives your star a little extra ray of light. Ooh, we're going to stay standing. The moon rises high. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, my spine is long and I bend to each side just like a crescent moon. I'm going to stay kneeling so you can see me better, but feel free to do this standing up. We're going to go. side to side like a crescent moon. My family and I call this shape of moon, a crescent moon, a Cheshire Cat moon, because it looks like the Cheshire Cat's smile from Alice in Wonderland. The birds are flying back now. Ooh, this is going to be a fun one. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, I focus on one point and use my arms to soar like a bird. Okay, so we're going to be standing on just one foot. Spread out our arms and soar like birds home to our beds. Whoops. Beg your pardon. The birds go to their homes in the trees. Oh, we're going to be trees next. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, my shoulders roll back. My heart between my head and my hips is open. And I am solid like a tree. If you can, lift one leg up. I'm using a hand to balance, and that is okay. Keep your foot either below or above your knee. Ooh. The ladybugs settle softly. We're going to be sitting down again for this one. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, my palms press together and I sit on my leaf like a ladybug. Between the butterflies. Oh, we're going to be butterflies next. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, get those legs together. Just like this. My feet press together and my knees spread out like butterfly wings. And the bees. Ooh, we can be bees too. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, I reach my arms back like wings and I buzz my head down to the ground. I'll try it with you. Bzzz. The little blue cat who lives in the moon. Ooh, we're going to be a cat now. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, I arch my back like a cat. Okay, let's be kitty cats together. You ready? Think of the little cat who lives in the moon or another cat you know. Lift your back up. Meow. And as you breathe out, let it back down. whispers, "Good night, world. You'll be dreaming soon." All right, this is our last pose. As I breathe in, as I breathe out, I sit back on my heels, still and round like the earth. That is the end. Feel free to stay in that position and take as many deep breaths as you want for as long as it feels good. Thank you so much for joining me and Jonathan Van Unicorn for more virtual bedtime stories. We are back for more virtual bedtime stories in 1 week, next Monday at 7 p.m. But we also have virtual story time every single weekday, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. So join us anytime then. We hope to see you for more stories in the morning, and in the meantime, sweet dreams.